Nobody showed up to my graduation, not a single familiar face in the entire ocean of people. My name rolled out of the speakers, clear and bright, but the row marked reserved for family stayed painfully, unmistakably empty. Sunlight flickered off the cold metal benches like it was mocking the silence around me. I lifted my chin, smiled for the picture anyway, pretending the hollowness in my chest wasn't throbbing. 3 days later, a text from my mother blinked onto my screen. Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. No, congratulations. No, how was the ceremony? Just a demand dressed as a sentence. So I sent a single dollar with congrats typed beneath it like an afterthought. I changed the locks for the first time. My apartment was quiet in a way that felt intentional quiet. I chose. But that peace didn't last long. The day of my graduation was supposed to be the day I finally felt visible. The stadium glittered under the May sun, a haze of navy gowns and families waving phones high like tiny trembling flags. When the announcer called Camila Elaine Reed, Master of Data Analytics, I glanced toward the front rows out of instinct. The family section stared back at me, empty, metallic, indifferent. Not even the faint outline of someone who might have come for me. I forced another smile for the camera, gripping my diploma tighter than necessary, my cheeks straining from the effort of pretending. All around me, joy erupted, laughter pouring out of the crowd like spilled confetti. Students threw their arms around parents. Siblings wiped tears. Bouquets were crushed in excited hugs. Meanwhile, I stood alone beside a stranger's family as they posed, stepping into the background of their moment. My smile thinned with every shutter click. Afterward, I wandered into the courtyard, pretending to scroll through my phone just so I wouldn't look as lonely as I felt. Ruby, my classmate, spotted me and squealed, wrapping me in a hug. You did it! Her parents snapped pictures of us, their faces glowing with pride that wasn't even for me. She looked around, scanning the busy courtyard. Where's your family? Running late? I think so, I lied effortlessly. Years of practice had made the dishonesty smooth, easy, almost natural. By the time I reached the parking lot, the sky had softened into gold. Balloons bobbed above car roofs. Kids shrieked with excitement. Horns burst randomly like celebratory fireworks. I sank into my old Civic and watched the chaos through the windshield. For a heartbeat, I imagined my family walking toward me, mom grinning, Avery skipping in those sparkly sneakers she loved, Dad carrying a bouquet, but the vision dissolved into the low rumble of engines starting up around me. And honestly, I shouldn't have expected anything else. They'd skipped my college graduation. Mom claimed Avery had finals. Dad didn't bother calling. There was always some reason. Always something shinier, lighter, easier to choose than me. I'd spent my teenage years trying to earn affection like it was a prize. 2 jobs, long shifts, money sent home whenever they asked. Every yes chipped away a little more of me. At 16, I wore a stiff brown Starbucks apron before sunrise, serving caramel macchiatos to lawyers and nurses rushing through their mornings. Mom would text, "Thanks, honey. Avery needs piano lessons." Or, "She has a field trip, just a little extra." And I'd reply, "Okay," because what else did I know how to say? The first time she told me, "You're our pride," I swallowed the words whole, thinking they meant love. Now I understand they meant responsibility, me being useful, when I got accepted into grad school. I convinced myself that this time would be different. That this degree would finally earn me a real place in the family. That if I achieved enough, she'd look at me as something other than a backup wallet. But success, it turns out, could also be twisted into another opportunity to take 3 days after the ceremony. My cap and gown still hanging untouched by the door, that text appeared. Need $2,100. For your sister's sweet 16? No greeting. No warmth. Just numbers. Just expectation. I stared at it so long the screen went dark. $2,100. The digits looked less like a question and more like an order. I should have been immune to it by then. For years, money had been our family's substitute for affection. But that morning, it didn't glide off me the way it used to. Maybe it was the quiet that still clung to my apartment. Maybe it was the memory of applause that hadn't been for me. Or maybe I had finally reached the edge of myself. I opened my banking app, saw the balance barely $3,000 to my name, and something inside me solidified. I typed in $1, added a note, "Congrats," pressed send. For a long moment, I simply watched the words sent glow on the screen. A tiny act of rebellion, but it felt enormous. Then I opened the drawer by the door, dug out the spare key my mother insisted on having for emergencies, and dropped it straight into the trash. That night, I called a locksmith. He arrived within the hour, an older man with a gentle voice, his tools clinking softly like wind chimes. The new lock clicked into place with a quiet finality that made my chest ache. When he left, I stood in the doorway, inhaling the faint smell of metal and oil, realizing I had finally built a boundary. A real one. The following morning, sunlight filled every corner of my small apartment. I brewed coffee, watched the steam twist upward, and for the first time, silence didn't feel threatening. It felt earned, mine, a space where no one could just walk in, where no one could demand, where no one could drain me. Peace had a sound. And it was this until the knocking started, hard, steady, unrelenting. I froze. It wasn't Mrs. Patel my landlord always called before showing up. When I peeked through the peephole, 2 uniforms filled the hall. Denver police, one said. Voice calm and official, Miss Reed. I opened the door, heart racing. Yes, Thedler officer. A black man in his 30s showed his badge. We received a call from your mother. She said you've been acting erratically, changing locks, notin' wearing calls, and that she's worried you might harm yourself. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it circled back to tragic. She did what I asked quietly. His eyes softened. We just need to confirm you're okay. Mind if we step in? I let them in. The apartment was spotless, coffee mug on the table, laptop open with my project on the screen, diploma framed on the wall. I gestured and, "Do I look unstable to you?" The officer's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Not even close, ma'am." He asked a few questions about Workstra's family. I answered honestly. Just finished grad school. Working on job applications. No medical issues. Just boundaries, he nodded. We'll file the report as no concern. But if your mother calls again, you can reference this visit. They turned to leave, and just before stepping out, he added, "Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. Happens more than you think." When the door closed, I leaned against it, shaking, not from fear, but fury. My mother hadn't just crossed a line. She'd declared war on it. That night, I sat on the couch. The police report still fresh in my inbox. I replayed the years of manipulation, the way she'd guilt me into sending money. The way she'd say family helps family whenever I hesitated. If had always been about control, not care. I didn't know what she'd done yet. Only that, if she was willing to use the police to humiliate me, there was no limit to what came next. The silence in my apartment didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like the pause before a storm, and I was done waiting to get struck. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, the city still quiet under a soft haze. My phone lay face down on the table beside the police report. I hadn't heard from my mother since the night she sent them to my door. But I knew her silence wasn't peace, it was strategy. I made coffee and opened my laptop, intending to lose myself in job applications. Instead, I opened my banking app. A pit formed in me stomach. 2 new credit inquiries blinked back at me. Capital One and Discover. Both recent, both unfamiliar. My chest tightened. I hadn't applied for any new cards. I clicked through to my credit report. 2 accounts had been opened in my name. My social security number, my address, but not this address. My parents' house in Littleton. I froze. The balances were already climbing. Thousands spent. Then I saw the transactions. Cherry Creek Events, Denver DJ Agency, Glam Studio. My mother's text came rushing back like a gunshot. Need $200 for your sister's Sweet 16. It wasn't a request. It was a setup. I called the number on the statement, my voice shaking but steady. This is Camilla Reed. I need to report identity theft. The woman on the line never verified my information, paused, and said, This account was opened in person at our Littleton branch last month. Colicant Linda M. Reed. For a moment, everything went still. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, even my breath. Ma'am, she continued carefully, we'll flag this for fraud investigation. You'll receive forms to complete within 24 hours. When the call ended, I sat staring at the screen. It was all there. My mother's signature, her phone number, her address. She hadn't just used me for money. She'd beckoned me to get it. I opened my voice recorder. In Colorado, one party consent me and I could legally record our next call. I dialed her number. She picked up after 3 rings. Her tone sharp. So you're alive. Mom, I said evenly. I found 2 credit cards under my name, both using your address. Do you want to explain that? She laughed, a hollow practice sound. Oh, that I was helping you build credit. You should be grateful be paying for Avery's Sweet 16. Stop dramatizing. It's family money. What's